right. Welcome, everybody. It's Monday night. It's time for Bring It. I am your host, the Big Dog, and with me, once again, as always, Ray. What is up, Ray? Good to see you
What's up,
again.
man? How you doing?
All right. Ray is on location today for the first part of the show, and then he'll be checking back in with us from the studio. And tonight we are going West Coast style. We got my man, Jonathan. What's up, Jonathan?
Hey, what's up, yo? What's up, Ray? Thanks for having me on the show tonight. It's a pleasure, man.
Great. Yeah, it's good to have you here. It's good to see the sun out behind you. The sun's dark over here on the East Coast, but we're going West Coast tonight. You know, it's Biggie and Tupac, but there's no fighting tonight.
No.
Exactly. There you go.
Mayweather fight. That wasn't too much of a fight either.
I like it.
Yeah, exactly. That fight last night wasn't much of a fight either. That is true. Did either of you guys see the fight? I didn't. I saw parts of it.
I watched it. It was too much. Like every time Mayweather go for a throw, he'd grab him. Looked like he's gonna do a suplex on him.
Mm-hmm.
You know, just like a big wrestling match with a boxing twist.
I know. And something like, didn't Chad Ochocinco box last night or something like that?
Yeah, he boxed last night. I didn't watch him, but I did catch the Floyd Mayweather fight, Mayweather and Jake Paul fight.
And it wasn't.
They were too much showing them in the ring. Then they showed his brother outside the ring to go back to the ring. It was just a big. It's just way. I'm glad I watched it for free though.
Exactly. Not something you definitely wanted to pay for sure. No. For sure. Well, cool. Well, there's a bunch of stuff we're going to get to tonight, but the first thing I want to start with some football. A major trade. There was talk about it last week. The whole thing with Shannon Sharp and Julio Jones, and now the trade went down. The Falcons, according to Adam Schefter, they agreed to trade Julio Jones to Tennessee. Tennessee is sending a 2022 second-round draft choice, a 2023 fourth, and the Falcons are sending, along with Jones, a 2023 sixth-round draft choice. So, Ray, it looks like basically Tennessee stole him. I mean, that's not much to give up for a player of Julio Jones's caliber.
Well, you got to look at it, too. Julio Jones is now getting up in the age, and he's getting that injury level type thing. If he stays healthy, yes, it's a steal. But if he doesn't stay healthy, then that they didn't get way too much for him. But then you got to look at it too. Tennessee's now got a number one wide receiver. They got a number one running back, but they ain't got a good quarterback. They got an average quarterback who can throw the ball. But if Julio Jones, the statement he made that he wanted a quarterback with a strong arm who could throw it deep, he should have came to Jacksonville because Trevor Lawrence has got that arm that he's looking for. Taylor, Ryan Tannehill is, he doesn't have that stronger of an arm to go really deep. So he's pretty much going back to a Matt Ryan type deal quarterback throwing it to him, but in a different city. So now you got to think about too. He used to play in a dome. Now he's going to an outside stadium, and now he's going to go play in the cold outside of it. Not playing inside the stadium anymore. How is that going to affect him with all the injuries he had before? So you got to look at it. You got to look at it two ways. You got to look at the injury aspect, but you also got to look if he stays healthy. Tennessee's got a double-headed monster here because now what you going to do? You got a running game. You put 8 man in the box. You're going to leave him one-on-one, and he's going to beat half the corners anyway in the league because that's how good Julio Jones is.
No, that's true. That is true, and that's an interesting point as far as the outdoor thing. Because, Jones has been, he's been playing, he played outdoors at Alabama, and then he's been playing in the dome for years and years, and now he's going to be playing outside. But you know what? It's interesting. That scheme could definitely fit his skill set, if you ask me, because Atlanta never really had that power back that Tennessee has. So Jonathan, what's your take on the trade? Do you think, with Davis is the other receiver? No, AJ Brown, thank you. Yeah, is the other receiver. So do you think his skill set should work in this system with a Derrick Henry in the backfield now?
Absolutely. I mean, one of the most anticipated deals have finally got done. Julio Jones has been, mentioned in trade talks for quite some time now. And I think this just bolsters their offense. You look at what they have in that backfield with Henry, and then you see AJ Brown, who has blossomed into a talented wide receiver for them. I think this only makes them better. Now, I know that Julio Jones has been an injury-prone type player. I believe he's age 32 now. He's a different player. But can he come in and make a substantial impact? to this Titans team? Sure, he can. It was an interesting trade to me because here's why. The Tennessee Titans are a run first offense, right? They run the ball plenty, so it's a run heavy offense predicated on the strong running game behind Henry. So at first it threw me off a bit. I was a bit confused. I didn't understand the trade, but all it does is add another weapon for Tannehill. Now, Ray, mentioned it. He couldn't have said it any better. Tannehill is not a deep throwing quarterback, but you got to look at who Julio Jones is too athletically. This is a guy who can create his own plays, just like AJ Brown. And Julio Jones, with his nifty feet work and his ability to make spectacular catches, he can use his speed and run back to the football. So I mean, he's just a phenomenal player to have, and I think anyone would want a receiver of his caliber to, play alongside whoever they might have on their offense.
No, definitely. And and it's funny, people underestimate Tannehill, if you ask me, because I saw him here in Miami. I mean, I'm not a Dolphins fan, but I saw him here in Miami. And he always had moments of greatness and then moments of like, hey, what's up, Eric? Good to see you, man. Thanks for coming in. He always had moments of greatness and moments of great skill, but that system wasn't built properly for him. Whereas this Tennessee system really seems to work in his skill set, and to have that other option, when a quarterback has options, when you can dump off, who knows? AJ Brown might end up being the long friend. Julio might become like a short field. I'm not saying a slot guy, but he might not be the guy that's going to go deep anymore because AJ Brown's got speed and he's got skills, and that thing. And then with having a Julio Jones there, it'll open up the middle for Henry and for whoever their tight end is this year. I can't recall who their tight end is at the moment, but it's going to be interesting. I mean, it's definitely. I mean, Ray, it's definitely an AFC South changing trade. I mean, the whole scheme of that division just changed in one trade. It's amazing.
Yeah, with the AFC South now, you got Henry that most of the South can't handle anyway. Now you have Julio Jones, which now you got to think about the Jaguars don't have an actual number one corner really, except C.J. Henderson. And if C.J. Henderson doesn't stay healthy, and then they got the rookie they drafted, so we don't know exactly what he can do in the NFL. Can he match up with Julio Jones? But then you got to think about Julio Jones' strength and his skill sets. And what y'all mentioned before is Julio Jones can create his own plays, but also Julio Jones can set you up and blow right by you too. And if he stays healthy, then that's going to be a big feather because he gave the Tennessee Titans a big deep threat ball. So
right,
you got to understand by Julio Jones going into the AFC South. The AFC South is going to be. You only have the Indianapolis Colts, who had a good corner, but their corners are going to be suspect. You got the Texans, whose corners are suspect. Then you got the Jaguars, which we don't know what they're going to be doing under Urban Myers, and how this is going to affect, because Tennessee Titans is Jacksonville Jaguars rivalry, and it's always coming down to the two games. And like I said, when I go to the Jacksonville Jaguars games, and when Tennessee comes to town, me and Tyler DeWan gets into it all the time. They had to move him to the other side of the bench to keep him away from me. But he tries to make his way up there, and I still, look at this direction. So you got to understand that with Julio Jones now is going to affect what the Jaguars got to do, and it's going to affect how you defend the Texans. You can't put 8 men in the box, because if you do that, then you're going to leave your corners on the island with Julio Jones, and then you got AJ Brown on the other side. So I mean, you got to pick your poison, which one you're going to go with. To me, I think you take your chances with stopping Henry and let Jones, but you got to understand, if Jones get injured, then what Tennessee is going to do after that, we don't know.
Right, exactly. But Jonathan, as the Atlanta GM, I mean, so put yourself in his shoes. I mean, obviously you're pressured to make a trade. This guy wants out. He does not want to be there. You don't want to keep him in the NFC, so you got to trade him to the AFC. And to me, this is the offer he takes. I mean, it's not a great haul for a receiver. Yes, I know he's got injury issues, but to me, I mean, they should have gotten a first, if you ask me. I really think so.
Yeah, this was an act of desperation, I should say. This was a team that just wanted to like get rid of him. They did the same thing that the Rams did by getting Matthew Stafford. They wanted to get rid of Jared Goff. No matter how they did it, they just wanted to get rid of him. It was obvious. That was the same situation here. That was the same scenario with this one. So I don't think the Falcons thought about it clearly. They just was in a rush to make a move, and they made one where they didn't get much back in return for a player that's as amazing as Julio Jones. I think you could have got a little bit more for him, but again, I think they were desperate to get rid of him, and they didn't think it through clearly before they made the move, and they just wanted to dump that salary and move on.
Right. Well, I know the Falcons had salary cap issues, and according to the Falcons Wire at usatoday.com, the trade, now that the trade has been made official, Atlanta must eat over $20 million in dead cap space for 2021. Jones is saving the team $4 million in cap space in 2022. He'll still eat up an additional $15.5 million in 2022. He'll be completely off their books in 2023. I mean, he's a $7,750,000 cap hit just this season alone. I mean, it's crazy. So, I mean, I kind of see, now that I look at those numbers, maybe Tennessee, was like, hey, you need the money and we want the player, that type of thing. Eric's saying, no, Julio is not a first-round trade. 2 and 5 was perfect for both teams, depending on how that second-round pick turns out. Well, I mean, it does depend, I mean, it does depend if they figure that things, Oh, Eric, you think you can cover Julio? All right. Let's get that on your video on the Rick T podcast. I want to see you covering Julio Jones, Eric. That'll be pretty funny. But it's going to be interesting, and unfortunately, as we know, football is a numbers game, and it's about, it's about the numbers and about all that stuff. But I mean, the AFC definitely changed over the weekend, that type of thing, and Nate's right. The Rams did upgrade, and obviously the Falcons have downgraded. So, that once again, that NFC South looks like it's Brady's house and everyone else is just living in it now. That kind of thing. All right. Well, that's all about football for now. Let's move on to some basketball. An amazing basketball weekend. We've got our LA correspondent, Jonathan, in the house. Big weekend for LA basketball. The Lakers go down. The ageless wonder has finally aged. Injuries definitely bit them and they had some problems getting out of the first round. But the LA Clippers move forward. A big story coming. Luka scores 49 yesterday, and the Clippers still win that game. So, Jonathan, as an LA guy, you're in tune with LA Talk Radio. What's been the talk all weekend out in LA as far as the basketball scene?
Everyone was talking about how the Lakers, battled through injuries and couldn't, get out of this round against the Phoenix Suns. And everyone put a lot of that blame on LeBron James, right? That's what you've been hearing all weekend, right? That the guy was under criticism for being either too passive or not aggressive enough and, not been able to put the team on his back. And then a lot of people was talking about the Lakers should have known better than to have Anthony Davis return to the game, suffering from a groin injury. Right. It was a lot of noise out here. And then you have Clipper Nation that's buzzing, right? Everyone is talking about the Clippers who overcame a 2-0 deficit to crawl back into this series, right? Right. It was just a crazy weekend out here. And that series was bizarre. As when you look at it, it was a bizarre series because no one had won at home. Right. Until Game 7, the Clippers closed it out, in dramatic fashion at home, and Kawhi Leonard carried the team on his back, something that LeBron wasn't able to do because he showed his age, and he was also dealing with an ankle injury as well. Right. The Clippers are moving on. What does that mean for LA? Well, it means a lot for the Clipper organization. I don't know how much it means for the city because this is predominantly Laker town, right? It's Laker heaven out here. The people, the vast majority out here in Los Angeles, they love the Lakers, and that's not me being biased. That's me speaking facts. They love the Lakers out here, but the Clippers are onto something. Now, if they could get more from Paul George, they could be really lethal going into this next series. But you know what? I'm going to tell you like this, I don't see them beating Utah in a 7-game series. I think Utah is stronger. I think they're deeper, and I think they have two guys that have really turned it on this year. I'm talking about Donovan Mitchell and Michael Conley.
Yeah. No, definitely. You definitely are. It's, and it's interesting. It's interesting, that whole series, and your take is absolutely spot on. The whole series was interesting because, when they're down 2-0, everyone's like, all right, Clippers are done. Then they go into Dallas and win 2. Then it goes back and forth 3-3, and then yesterday at home, all of a sudden, third quarter comes around and Dallas can't hit the blind side of a barn. Dallas is playing no defense. And Dallas didn't really play great defense the entire series if you really look at it. There were games that LA just wasn't shooting well. So it amazes me how that series has went. And, the Clippers on paper should have won this series a little more convincingly than they did, if you ask me. Because, Luka clearly is a star, clearly is a number one, but he doesn't have a clear 2. And Porzingis came out today, and I saw someone Porzingis saying that, I'm a secondary player. I shouldn't be. It's like, well, then you should have stepped up. Because in the first half, yesterday, Porzingis couldn't hit anything. Hardaway couldn't hit anything. It was nuts. And that team, they're gonna need to give Luka a good number 2. Because I don't think Porzingis is a 2, if you ask me,
No,
but
not.
Yeah, getting back before we go on, Eric had chimed in and said wants to see full screen Jonathan's shirt. So what does your shirt say? What does it say?
It says Kick Story, like Toy Story, and it's Woody holding a pair of Jordan 3s.
Oh, there you go. All right, cool. Oh, that's dope, man. Where did you get that? That's pretty cool.
Oh, I found it online at mattsneakers.com.
Nice.
Something like that, yeah.
Nice. Very cool. But all right, so I want to bring it back. I just have to give a shout out to Eric and your T-shirt. So there you go. Yeah. So and it's going to be interesting because, like, I think I do like the matchups. I'm not sure if Paul George can guard Mitchell. I mean, there are moments where Paul George is playing tight D and he can guard anybody, but Mitchell is a little younger. Got a quicker step, off the dribble, and I mean, I think Rudy Gobert is going to be a big difference in that series in the middle. I mean, no one's talking about Gobert in the middle, and I don't think the Clippers have someone that can match up with him in the middle, even not so much offensively, but defensively. So I mean, where do you? I mean, we know what's going to happen on the outside, but on the inside, what's going to happen with the Clippers in Utah?
Gobert could be a little. He could lack assertiveness at times,
Right.
And we've seen him display that weakness, right, in his game. But I don't think the Clippers match very well against Utah. And you brought up Mitchell, right? Now, it's being unguardable in this series.
Yeah.
I think we're gonna have to switch Kawhi Leonard on him. I think that's the only guy on the roster that could really contain him because I think he have those big moments where he explodes throughout the series and have those monster performances. And we've seen that because Donovan Mitchell is capable of that. And then you got Michael Conley Jr., who has I would say revitalized his shot, right?
Yes.
He's gotten better from 3-point range. And then you got Ingles. Don't forget about Ingles, the guy who likes to knock down the corner 3. I think this team is lethal. This team is deadly. I think this team got a great shot at getting to the finals. And if Rudy Gobert on a consistent basis can show you that he could be tough in the interior, and if he could step it up a notch and be more aggressive, I think this series could be over in 6 games.
Wow. So Utah in 6. That's definitely a bold prediction. Nate said Utah in 5. Wow. Okay. Well, I mean, I definitely think the Clippers might come out flat tomorrow because they're going to be tired from that series. It was a tired 7-game series. And that Utah crowd, I mean, I think the rules in Utah are a lot less strict. So I have a feeling there's going to be more people in that building. And if you remember back in the day, Utah back in the day, that building was loud in the playoffs, and the Clippers haven't really, in LA. I mean, as I think was it you who commented yesterday about the cutouts? Was it you who commented about the cutouts of the crowd yesterday?
Yeah.
I saw that, and I'm just like, and all of a sudden I'm looking at the TV. I'm like, man, Jonathan's right. Look at that. There's all these cutouts of the crowd. No, it's going to be a good series, but I think it's going to be good for the NBA. I think the whole playoffs in general are going to be good for the NBA. So we got some real fresh blood in there. We still have a villain in the Nets, which we'll talk about in a little bit. And the West, I mean, no matter who comes out of the West, I mean, it's going to be a team that you cannot not root for. I mean, Utah's a team to root for. The Clippers, to see if the Clippers got to the finals, I mean, the LA Clippers, who were the joke of the league for so long, for them to possibly get to a final would be crazy, And since we're in the West, let's move on to the other Western Conference series, which starts tonight. Denver and Phoenix, the Phoenix Suns, the resurgent Phoenix Suns, playing Denver and Jokic and the MVP. Denver basically either it depends on how you look at it. Either they took care of Portland or Portland beat themselves. There are two ways of putting that. And then with everything that went on in that series, the whole Damian Lillard rumors have started, and we can talk about that in a minute. But let's just back up a little bit on the Denver-Portland series. I mean, what was your take on that series and how it ended up, how it played out? I mean, because I was surprised personally. I really was.
Well, Damian Lillard doesn't have enough help, right? He doesn't have a supporting cast around him, right? And then for many years now, people have questioned their front court, the inability to dominate inside the paint. They became this three-point shooting team because we all know Portland has a prolific backcourt, right? With C.J. McCollum and Damian Lillard. But unfortunately, C.J. McCollum didn't do enough to help his best friend in that backcourt. And Damian Lillard, man, he looked exhausted in that last game. I felt really bad for him because he put so much, on his body, and it takes a lot of hard work, going into these playoffs and stuff, and just to see the guy fall short every year, it's not fair, But that's the kind of game it is. He's a competitor. He plays the game really hard. He plays with a lot of heart. And I just felt like Denver was a stronger team, a force to be reckoned with. You had Austin Rivers, who they called to come play. This guy was at home on his couch, and he gets a phone call. And look, he's lighting it up in the playoffs. And then you have Michael Porter Jr., who had 17 points, I believe, in the first half in one of those games. You have different players that showed up. And then you have Jokic putting up monster numbers, who had an MVP type season. So there you go. That answers all your questions right there. The Denver Nuggets were just a completely better team, an all-around team, and Portland just didn't have enough to match up well against them.
Exactly, and I think it was Game 5. I think it was Game 5. Yeah, where Portland had them on the ropes, and there was two plays at Covington. Covington missed 2 dunks in the second half. And there was another player, I forget where it was, where it just seemed like all of a sudden the rest of the team got unfocused, and yet there was still Dame time, and the fact that they got rid of Terry Stotts, I mean, it was time. I mean, after 9 years, they had to make a change out there. So it's going to be interesting what happens in Portland. They've got a decent core.
I might add this as well. Mm-hmm. They missed Gary Trent Jr. because he was their best defensive player, and when they traded him, I know they got something greater in return, and that's Norman Paul. Because Norman Paul has helped them get to the point to where they were, but still, you missed that defensive presence of Gary Trent Jr.
Right. And unfortunately, Melo really showed his age finally. And I mean, Melo hasn't played a lick of defense since Syracuse, but you knew he wasn't playing defense now.
He's been a totally offensive player.
Yeah, exactly. And look, Melo will go to the Hall of Fame, and he'll get a seat in Springfield. But so I definitely feel bad for that Portland organization. That fan base is so dedicated to them, and they stay strong with those guys. So hopefully one day they'll bring a championship back. But let's move on to the Denver Phoenix matchup. Great matchup, great on paper. It's going to be great on the court. I like Jokic and DeAndre. I can never remember his last name of Phoenix, the guy in the middle of Phoenix. But
DeAndre.
Thank you. Thank you, DeAndre Eaton. Thank you. I like that. I love that matchup. And it was an interesting moment during the series where there was a moment where I saw Jokic like just dragging up court, going real slow. And then all of a sudden he pops up at the top of the key, goes to the hole, boom, and totally throws everybody off. So it's gonna be a great series. Both fan bases are desperate for something. Nate made a point here. Not one of the teams in the West that are left have ever won the finals before. So that's going to be interesting. Denver's never been to a final. Let's see, Phoenix has, obviously Utah has, and the Clippers have never. So yeah, it'll if Denver and the Clippers make the final, they make the Western Conference Finals. Well, that's going to be fun to watch for sure. This Denver Phoenix matchup. I mean, the key is obviously for Phoenix is Booker and Paul staying healthy. The key for Denver is Jokic and I think Porter. But you mentioned Austin Rivers. Is Austin Rivers the X factor in this series?
No, Jokic is. Jokic and Porter are. And those two guys are because you know why? They have more experience than what Phoenix has. Mm-hmm. And that's not to take anything away from Chris Paul. But experience gets you to the finals, right? Yeah. And they've been in this situation last year. So I just think experience will win. Devin Booker hasn't been to the playoffs before. He has not been this far in the playoffs. I know he's a great player, and I'm not taking anything away from him because he really killed the Lakers. Like it showed in that series. The Lakers had no answer for him. Devin Booker is their guy moving forward. And then you have Chris Paul, right?
Right.
Who's a floor general. A veteran guard, and throughout his career, he hasn't been able to kind of get over that hump, right? No matter where he played. So I just think that the Nuggets, again, we go back to what I was talking about earlier. They're just a deeper team, right? They have more. I don't think they really have anyone that can guard Jokic. I mean, I know they have DeAndre Ayton, but I think he'll get eaten alive by Jokic because Jokic just has better footwork. To me,
right,
and he's able to when he's more effective in the post. Not only that, he could spread the floor because of his ability to knock down the mid-range jump shot or shoot from outside. So that allows Denver to spread the floor. That creates scoring opportunities for guys like Michael Porter Jr., like Austin Rivers. Right. They're able to launch the three-point shots, and if they're on their shots that night, hey, you know what? It might be over.
Right. Phoenix. No, it might. Phoenix is young. Phoenix is definitely a little ahead of their schedule. No one was expecting them to do as well as they've done this year. Booker has basically become a star this season, which he deserves because he's been playing well the last couple of years, and he's finally had a good mentor in Chris Paul, as you said. But yeah, Denver's stronger than people think. With Murray going out, everyone, had left Denver for dead, and they've really turned that around, which has been interesting. Before I move on, let's bring our producer Nate in. Nate, let's get a score update of the Nets and Bucks game 2 tonight. What do we got?
So the Nets are in the lead with 6 minutes and 24 seconds left in the second quarter, and they're up 52-31.
Oh, well, they're up 20 already. Wow. Wow, they're up 20. Uh-oh. Look out. Who needs James Harden, right?
Right, exactly. They definitely miss James Harden tonight.
At this point, he might not play the whole series. Wow, that is crazy. So let's move on to that series. I mean, is it that Milwaukee just can't run with these big boys, or is Durant and Kyrie just so dominant that even like Middleton and Giannis and Holiday, I mean, they just can't match up with these guys.
They just can't match up with them. It's just that simple. They can't match up with them. This big three that Brooklyn put together is just too dominant. Yeah. It's too dominant. And then one guy can have a bad night, and the other guy can pick the other two guys up. You know, you seen that with Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant is balling right now.
He is.
He's having a good game early on. I just think that this is where I go back to saying that the Milwaukee Bucks are a great regular season team, but when competition becomes stiffer, it's harder for them to put together a great series. You know, I'm not trying to take anything away from them. I like what they have. They upgraded this offseason by getting PJ Tucker. You know, they got Holiday who has defended Kyrie Irving well. You know,
right.
He's forced him into some turnovers, gotten inside his head a little bit, and Kyrie Irving even admitted to that, right? But I just think that this team is too deep, too powerful, and quite frankly, I think they come out of the East because of all that they have. You know, in that big three, they have a trifecta that is a legitimate threat to the rest of the NBA.
Yeah, no, definitely. It just amazes me, and I'm looking at the box score right now, and the Nets are shooting 60%. I mean, Milwaukee's shooting 42%, which isn't usually bad, but when you're playing a team that they're shooting 60%, I mean, you can't stop it. You can only hope to contain it, as they say. You know, it's crazy. I mean, it's just absolutely crazy. And the thing is. And there's going to be a lot of backlash from this, if you ask me, because if the Nets go on and they win this championship and they win the whole thing, there's going to be the whole backlash of like, well, look, you know, load management. We load managed all year, and now look, we won the championship. So it's going to make the regular season more meaningless than it already is. And to me, that's a problem. It's a problem for the league. You know, what do you think?
Yes, load management could become a problem for the league because, look, NBA fans want to see the best product on the floor, right?
Mm-hmm.
They pay for tickets to come see the stars. And if the stars are absent, what's the point of showing up to the game? What's the point of tuning into the game? That's just going to lower ratings. That's going to lower ticket sales. And no one's going to care until the playoffs.
Right.
So it really does the league no good if players are going to, you know, if players are gonna sit out of games.
Right.
It's not going to benefit the NBA in any way imaginable. It's not.
No, and they're talking about, you know, this midseason tournament and all that. So how do you motivate these players to play during the season? You know, I mean, that's the biggest thing. I mean, ticket prices are going to go up because the league lost millions of dollars with this probably billions of dollars with this pandemic. So I mean, I know I can't afford to go to a game right now. It's just ridiculous, you know. But so ticket prices are going to go up, and then you're going to want to go. You know, like a team from the East goes to the West, you know. And you're going to want to see these players play, and they're not going to like, you know, show up. And you're going to be like, well, why'd I pay, you know, $100 some odd dollars to sit in the third deck, you know, and not see the guy I want to see play? It's going to get to that point. It's really going to damage the league, I really think, you know. So that's why the Nets, to me, are the villains right now.
Load management is today's tanking in the NBA.
Yes, but they're not tanking to lose. They're just tanking to rest, as they say. You know, well, I mean, we all know Kyrie's a little nuts, but that's besides the point. You know?
Yes. He wants to take a vacation in the middle of the season, and then all of a sudden he wants to turn into beast mode. You know, that's just how he operates, I guess.
Exactly. Well, Nate, that's interesting. So the Islanders are up on Boston 5-2. That series is tied at 2. Nate will be on at 11 o'clock with his show Sports Corner. He'll be talking a lot of hockey there. Ray is back with us. Hey, Ray, you made it back. Cool.
Yeah. Yep.
All right. We've been talking a little NBA, so I'm going to backtrack a little bit with you. So just give us your quick take on the Clippers series. The Clippers beating Dallas. Obviously, you know, we know the Lakers just, you know, got hurt and they just couldn't make up for it. So that's an old story. But give us your quick take on the Clippers series, and then a little quick take on Denver and Phoenix.
To me, in the Clippers series, I want to know why it took the Clippers so long to figure out how to play the Dallas Mavericks. But then the question is, did Luka's neck really get stiffened up and where he couldn't be effective? And the series completely changed on the hand of Kawhi Leonard, you know, scoring back-to-back games like he did, took the game in his own, and they found a heart to win. So I mean, the Clippers are survivors, and they could tell you that you have to play a full 7-game series against the Clippers.
Mm-hmm.
If you take them, lackadaisical, if you're up that lead and you've been whipping, games, and I think that was the first time that the home team in that series actually won a game out of that whole series. So it took them 7 games it took them actually 6.5 games to figure out how to beat the Dallas Mavericks. So once they figured out the combination, they just stuck with it in that game 7, and you could look at it that they were fighting for their lives, and they found it hard to win. I mean, I don't think it was much of coaching. I think it was just the effort of the guys out there in the court battling out and then taking the pride. And that's the only thing you got to look at it too, because if they would have lost, LA would have been out, and nobody representing the city out in West in LA. So I mean, you still got the Clippers involved there, but you got to understand LA is mostly the Lakers fans out there. So you got the Clippers fans now. You got Billy, of course, who supports the Clippers and stuff out there. So they do have some celebrities to the thing. And I think it kind of helps them too, because they're trying to look to split away from the Staples Center and get their own stadium, which is, kind of nice for them to get their, own stadium out of instead of splitting the thing. I understand the splits, but I don't like the splits of New York. To me, you're playing in another team's stadium and they just keep splitting, games. You got to change it all out. I know it's hard on the workers too. You got to change all the colors, change the floors and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, this is a good win. I mean, it's a good step forward for the Clippers. If they play like this next round, they could go home easily too. So, they got to figure out if this formula is going to work for against every team. So, I mean, whatever they did that halfway through the game 6 to take that game and then carry it over to game 7, you got to count it out, and it's just pride. And that was they were fighting for the pride.
No, they definitely were. Just quick question to you, Jonathan, about this. We're going back to LA for a minute. So now, do you think that a lot of these like Lakers celebrity supporters will all of a sudden, support their city's team, support the Clippers, and you might see like Jack Nicholson at a Clipper game all of a sudden this playoffs? No.
Nah, that's utterly silly. I don't see that. I don't see him switching over. He bleeds the purple and gold. He stands in purple and gold, and he will be at the sidelines for every Laker game, as he usually is. Now, I don't see him switching over. There are a lot of bandwagon fans here in Southern California that would claim the Clippers as their team, and they would slip on a white or red Clipper jersey. I've seen it happen before with my own 2 eyes. That's the bad part about having 2 teams of each here in Southern California, because you have flip-floppers and fans that will, jump ship and hop onto another bandwagon. We see it all the time here in Southern California. But I think the loyal Clipper fans will stay loyal to their fan base, and I think their loyal celebrities will even stay loyal to them. I'm talking about the Billy Crystals of the world, or the Frankie Munises, or wherever that guy is now. I haven't seen him in ages. I don't know where he is. But now, you're going to have their bandwagon fans that, jump onto the other side, and then now they're going to be hollering about Clipper Nation and all that. But this city will always be a Laker hood, like that one dude said. I don't know if he saw the video, but he said this was a Laker hood. And he's right. It would always be a Laker hood here in Southern California. The Clippers fans will always get outnumbered by the sea of purple and gold.
Yeah, no, that's true. That is very, very true. Cool. All right, then Ray, quickly on the Denver Phoenix series that starts tonight. What's your quick take on that?
Well, to me, it's going to be interesting. And way I built this thing out to be, and way I put it in my notes and stuff that I keep a journal of just about everything about the NBA and what challenges you look at. And the challenge is the Joker versus Booker. Which of those 2 players going to go off? If they are consistent. And to me, the way Phoenix should play this game, they should speed up the tempo. They shouldn't play like a slow down half court type deal. They need to speed up the pace, because you need to get him tired. Because if you look at the end, towards the end of some of the games, he's huffing and puffing. So if you keep him running all game, then he's going to be at least effective in that coming in the fourth quarter. And if he doesn't, if he played to where he can rest, during this time in the game, then the fourth quarter he's going to be strong. So it's going to be a battle. I see this series going 7 games, but I see Phoenix probably pulling that at the hair. I think Devin Booker's a little bit more capable of a shooter from 3-point range, and this is going to be the battle of 3-point line and the 2-point range. And if Denver can get all their points inside and he makes some of these key 3-pointers and make at least, I give it about 10. If they can make 10 3-pointers a game, then and they make all the points inside, they'll take the series. But like I said, if you speed up the pace and then get them fast breaking, then you're gonna have advantage in the center spot, and you're gonna have advantage everything else because he's gonna be tired by the time the fourth quarter comes rolling around.
Yeah, no, that's definitely a good opinion there, no doubt. And we were talking before you came back, Ray, how the 4 teams that are left in the West, none of them have won a championship. So it's going to be good to see some fresh blood out West. It's been the Lakers, it's been Golden State for years. So don't get me wrong, I can watch Steph Curry shoot all day. But still, it's definitely going to be interesting. And we just talked about the Nets and Milwaukee. The Nets are up like 20 some odd on Milwaukee.
24 points.
Yeah, 24. It's ridiculous. So, we might as well turn your sets off now and wait till 10 o'clock for the second game of the night. But Jonathan said that Milwaukee they're just a good regular season team, and just when it comes playoff time, they just fall to the wayside. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, Milwaukee's, I think they're still trying to figure out how to win in the playoffs. They figure out how to win regular season, but they haven't figured out how to win in the playoffs, how with series counts, and how to go up against a top tier team. I mean, they walked through their first round in Miami. They only had to stop Jimmy Butler, and they did that, and they took the other hero guy out completely, and he looked lost in that series.
Oh yeah,
and last year they were in a bubble. I think it was more him because he knew the surroundings. But now when you get them into a visiting team arenas, even though it wasn't full capacity, they still that travel and still trying to learn how to play in there. It caused that. So they gave Milwaukee a chance, and Guinness is good and everything. But then when you go away from him, everybody else needs to step up. And in this series here, you look at it, Harden went down. You figured they were going to take a lump sum here tonight, but you look up at 24, but he still got 2 out of the 3 guys. And then if you look at Blake Griffin, he stepped up, big time with the averaging, gave up 15 to 16 points. If he gives them 15, 16 points every game in the series, there's no way that this team is going to stay with him. This could be a sweep. If you're looking right now without Harden, they're up 24 points. You still got Durant, you still got Kyrie Irving, but then you got Griffin, who's he was an all-star. He's on his little downside, but he's still capable to give you that 15, 16 points and playing that defense, giving you that rebound. So if you look at it this way, the Nets are, they're loaded. Milwaukee still needs to get like 2 or 3 more pieces, and they need to learn how to win in the playoffs. They can win in the regular season, but they can't win in the playoffs, and that's the problem. They got a good coach, and but they still they got to be that team that learns how to win in the playoffs. Like Michael Jordan had to learn how to win in the playoffs with the Chicago Bulls. Everybody said he got eliminated 3 times in the first round, but once he learned how to get in there, you see what happened to Michael Jordan. He exploded out, and the Chicago Bulls won 6 championships with that, no losses, and they never went to a game 7. So. Teams got to figure out how to win. Lakers, they knew how to win, but they had too many injuries. You can't contemplate all on injuries for the Lakers and stuff like that. But, the key guy, if you look at the series, the 2 wins came, they had Anthony Davis.
Right.
The rest, when he did not play the first game, they lost. Every other game, they have lost. So they got to get more players. And then these comments I seen on the thing, I want to take a little bit here. And these comments I've seen on here, like Magic Johnson said, he needs to change his diet. He needs to change his workout. I totally agree with that because whatever he's doing on the offseason is not helping him. And then you can tell, if you tell a big guy, he's about 6'10", 6'11"?
Yeah, something like that, yeah.
He has a small calf. Look at his calves. Look at his calves and look at his ankles. He has small ankles. He has small calves. Those big guys got to have bigger calves, bigger leg muscles, and that's what his problem is, because pretty soon when you're jumping up and down, you got a lot of growing. He plays like he's back in high school when he played point guard. He grew out of that point guard position. He needs to go and learn how to, get his lower body built and his upper body built and have a little bit more stamina. If you look at his body proportion, he's not big up and top, and he's got really small calves to play that low spot. So Anthony Davis really needs to change his thing, go out and hire him a personal trainer,
Right.
get on something to beef him up or something down below. If he gets bigger legs, bigger calves, I think he'll be a better player, because if you look at it, he's too small in his frame. He's got a small frame, and he's playing like he's trying to be a point guard. So,
Right.
that's why I look at that. And that's when I just want to bring that up real quick, because I've seen that a lot of stories out, everybody bashing him. But, some people making good points, like Magic Johnson, he made a good point. If you look at his body frame, he needs a bigger body frame. He needs a bigger diet, and because he's got most of his injuries, leg injuries?
Yeah.
He got his groin.
Most of them are body injuries.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. No, well, I mean, look, he's got LeBron. Well, go to LeBron's guy. LeBron's got that trainer that keeps him. I mean, I mean, maybe he should trim his eyebrows a little bit too. That might help too.
LeBron has an excellent workout regimen. Excellent.
I mean, it's nothing against LeBron. I mean, I have nothing against him by being a person, by what he's done on the court, but I have the way I have a problem with LeBron, and he can call me a LeBron hater, I don't care, because he sits there and complains about everything that somebody touches him with a thumb, he complains about it. If somebody just looks at him wrong, he complains about it, or he flops. He's a big flopper. You can tell me, he's a big flopper. If you watch some of them charges he takes and you watch slowing down in slow motion, he does it. Nobody's barely hitting him. He's barely hitting a guy. A guy's barely hitting him. He's flopping back. He's getting the call. But see, if you look at it, some of the stuff that LeBron has done and other people do it, other people get suspended. LeBron gets a pat on the back. He don't get fined for the flops. Everybody else, if they do the same thing LeBron done, they'll get fined for it. So, I mean,
the face of the NBA.
Exactly. Well, there was a whole thing with LeBron where he supposedly violated the protocol, but yet he didn't get suspended or anything like that, right?
Then,
that came out too.
And then Porzingis, he did the same thing LeBron did. Boom, he got a $50,000 fine.
Right.
Yeah,
exactly.
He's the NBA poster boy, guys. Even though it's showing more and more who is the face of the Lakers, and that is Anthony Davis. But Anthony Davis has to show that he can stay healthy for a complete season, for a full season.
No, he does. I mean, he's starting to remind me of those bigger guys that always had injury problems. I mean, I hate to make a comparison to even the Bill Walton, but remember when Bill Walton came out of college, had that one great year in Portland, and then the rest of his pro career, he was injury riddled, then became a role player later in his career. I mean, I know I'm going back a little bit like that, but that's who he kind of reminds me of a little bit. Because Bill Walton was big, but he had the same kind of lower body issues and the leg issues and all that. And it's just, Ray, you're absolutely right. He's got that boy's got to give him a milkshake, something like that. He's got beefing up.
He's got to. I mean,
he reminds me of Yao Ming, really, because Yao Ming had a lot of body problems too. And I'm
gonna tell you,
his body frame.
I'm going to tell you, people, with that size of 6'10", 6'11", guys, if you don't have your frame down below fixed properly, you're going to have a lot of injuries. You're going to have a lot of groin injuries. You're going to have a lot of hamstring. You're going to have a lot of ankles, because the big guys have more. They got to pivot more. They got to turn more. They got to, they do face up more a little bit. But, him, development of post game with his outside shooting and stuff like that, the big guy at 6'11", I'd like to see him down in the box. And he can't get down in the box because he has no lower frame to get into it. People are just riding him right out. That's why he's taking more jump shots. And I'm going to tell you what, if you look at Anthony Davis, I have seen Anthony Davis play through college in Kentucky. He was not a leader on that team. He's not a leader. He's got to learn that. He's got to develop that leadership. He's got to stand up on that team. I know LeBron's the face of the NBA, blah, blah, blah. But you got to understand, this is Anthony Davis. The Lakers are not going to Anthony Davis needs to tell LeBron, say, hey, he needs to go to him and say, hey, you need to do this and that. And LeBron needs to go back to Anthony Davis and say, hey, you need to take these criticisms that people are getting and you need to get your act together and get your body fixed. if he fixes his frame, Anthony Davis could be a dominant person in the NBA. He's got to fix that frame. And I'm going to tell you what, Joel Embiid, he's got to do the same thing. If you look at his ankles, it's the same factor. He's got to work on his lower body a little bit too. So I'm not just bashing Anthony Davis on his lower body, but, Joel, he does pretty good, but he's starting to get a little bit of lower body injuries too. So, he needs to work on some of his lower body too, to get a little bit bigger down there and build his calves a little bit.
Right. And that's a great transition, Ray. Thank you to the final series that we didn't talk about yet. Philadelphia and Atlanta. Atlanta goes into Philly and spanks them. Yes, basically. Philly made it close in the end, but Trae Young, who can catch Trae Young? Who can guard Trae Young? Jonathan, I say nobody. He has got to be. So he's so fast off the dribble, and you never know which way he's going, and that's where he's getting those lob shots, those little dish shots, and then you don't know if he's shooting or if he's passing the ball. I mean, he was tremendous yesterday.
He was huge, and you know what?
Yeah.
Atlanta Hawks team is a dark horse.
They are. Watch out.
This team right here is fun to watch.
Mm-hmm.
Nate McMillan has them playing fantastic right now, and they need to remove the interim tag from him and hire him as the coach, because he's done a terrific job in turning this team around, and Trae Young has done a terrific job carrying this team. He's peaking at the right time. He is showing the world what he is capable of doing, and he's just a fun player. He's very explosive. He has a knack for the floaters. I mean, the man has the prettiest floater.
Oh, it is.
Today. And I believe he leads the league, in that category with the most floaters,
right.
And he has that soft touch on his shot. I mean, and nothing seems to faze this kid. I mean, he could play in any setting and he's fine. He's content, So, I mean, the Hawks are just a good team. They have gotten better, and I feel like they have a lot. But look, let's not take away anything from the Sixers. The Sixers, they've been one of the top tier teams in the East. What hurt them in that first half, what many people didn't point out, was all those turnovers. If they didn't have turnovers, this game would have been the game could have been much closer. And Philly, yes, they showed some fight. And that Philly brand type of basketball late, they showed some grit late in that game, but it was a little bit too late. I think more than anything, that showed the Hawks' youth late in that game. They had trouble inbounding the basketball. The Sixers were able to force some late game turnovers, and that kind of pointed things in their direction later in the game. But it wasn't enough. It was a little bit too late. It was too late to mount that comeback. But I like the Hawks in this series. I mean, it's a close call for me, because the Sixers could have a good game too if they eliminate the number of turnovers, if Tobias Harris gets hot, if you get scoring from other guys on the team as well. I mean, Joel Embiid, he's always questionable because of his health. I mean, if Tobias Harris turn it on, name me some other guys, because I went blank on that team. I know Tobias Harris, to me, he's an underrated player on that.
Yes.
On that, very underrated, very unappreciated. I think he's going to have to be a factor for this team. He's going to have to be huge for them if they want a chance in this series. But it's tough for me to pick. It's too early to tell at this moment.
No, it is. And, and if you look at the box score from the game yesterday, Tobias Harris had 20 points and, played, only had 3 turnovers. Ben Simmons was 7 of 7 shooting. Ben Simmons, 7 of 7 shooting, which is like, everyone says, oh, Ben Simmons can't shoot. Maybe Ben Simmons can shoot,
If he develops a jump shot, he'll be dangerous.
Oh, no doubt.
He has great passing ability, and he's good at passing the basketball and getting to the basket. It's just that jump shot that has been his kryptonite. But if he develops a better jump shot, he could be a factor, a huge factor.
No doubt. I think there's two factors with the Sixers, and then I'm going to let Ray jump in. There's two factors, if you ask me. One, they need to try to figure out how to, because you're not going to stop Trae Young. They got to figure out how to contain him. They obviously made Doc Rivers made some adjustments in the second half, and obviously Atlanta got tight a little bit, so that's definitely understandable. But I think Dwight Howard came in yesterday, and basically he's there to supposedly spell Joel Embiid, give him a little bit of a rest. And he's got to be a little more effective. He was minus 15 yesterday. And for the Sixers to be successful, as Ray said before, with Embiid's injury issues, they need someone to come in and give him a blow and let him rest. And if Dwight Howard can't come in and give him that rest, Embiid can't run up the court, 45, 46 minutes. So that to me, that I think that's a big factor there too, Ray, so where are you with this Atlanta Philly series?
Well, if you go back and look at it here on this series here, Joel Embiid had 39 points in this
39,
game. Yeah, on a torn meniscus. So, they're gonna let him score. And I'm gonna tell you, people think I've been told I was crazy when I say stuff like this, but when you let their superstars score and everybody else cannot help them, then that's what you need to do. You let that person go off and you stop everybody else. And basically what they did was they stopped him. But, Harris got his points and Simmons got 17 points. But you got to have your bench. You got players off your bench. And, and this is where sometimes where Danny Green gets lost.
Right.
Danny Green got lost in this game here. If you look at his points, He had 4 points. That's not cutting it. Danny Green is that 3-point shooter that needs to be effective. Like he died in that Lakers series, as he went into the playoffs, he died from what he was doing in the regular season, got kind of shot. I wonder if that's kind of trending now with him, because he stepped up in the regular season. That's why the 76ers was winning, because he was producing some points. He was helping out on the defensive end. So now, and going by Trae Young here, Trae Young he's a different kind of animal, because he can dribble the ball, he can take his own shot with the floor, he can create his own shot. But what you don't understand what Trae Young can do good is once he gets the balls up, he's good moving without the ball too. He knows how to go in and out of the lane, coming back out and losing his guy, and that's what he's doing. I mean, Trae Young has been doing that since he was in Oklahoma. He's been doing that when he was in high school. He's good off the ball. He could dribble the ball. He can play point guard, but he can also move without the ball. And he kind of reminds me of a little bit of Steph Curry / a Parker type player.
Right.
From San Antonio. Parker could get inside. Parker could shoot a 3, but Trae Young's a better shooter, so I match him up with Stephen Curry because Curry's a good shooter. But also Trae Young reminds me of Parker going there with he's a little bit smaller than Parker was, but he get in there and he throw that little floater up. So now what you gonna have to do with him? Because you can't really double team him. If you double team him, he's gonna find somebody else. He's a good passer. So I mean, he's a mismatch totally. Joel Embiid's a mismatch totally. We can see those two going off, but Harris got his 20 points. But I like to see Ben Simmons. Ben Simmons got to have at least average 25 points in this series to help him out.
And no doubt.
He just can't give him just 17. He's gonna have to get 8 more points than that. In this series, and when I talked about it to one of my friends, he does a local radio station here. When I got on there and I told him about it, he said, no, 76 is gonna cruise in this. And I said, no, they're not. You underestimate Atlanta. We know Atlanta's history in the playoffs. We know this is a different team. This team has come on in the latter part of the season, and you can see in that first series against New York, they didn't step away. They went toe to toe. They're not going to step away from you. You're going to have to play every single game against Atlanta. You might blow them out here and there, but you're going to have to play every game. And Trae Young is now learning the game a little bit too, so you can see him taking another step up, and he's became a really unstoppable force in this series. And if you can't figure out how to slow him down, you're not gonna succeed in the series, because Trae Young's gonna get his points. But then on the other end, you have what you're saying when Joel Embiid goes out, you have Dwight Howard coming in the defensive part. They also played if you look at some of the other things, George Hill, he didn't do much in this game. He had no points and he was negative 17.
Right.
I mean, that's not getting it. I mean, if you taking when he comes in the game, he's got to be a scorer because we know he can score.
Right, exactly.
They didn't have hardly no. But if you look at the bench scoring here, you got 7 points there. You got 10 points from Tabul Messi. You got 7, 6, and that's it. And 4 from Green. That's all you've been scoring. George Hill needs to, George Hill, when he plays, he needs to get in there and score. But I'm telling you, and if you look at it too, the 76ers shot 35.4 from 3-point range, while the other team is shooting 42.5.
There you
and
go.
Then, and they beat them inside. They shot better inside at 54.2. And then and then the Atlanta Hawks only shot 51.2 inside. So, I mean, if you look at it, you look at the ratio here, you're getting more in twos, but they're getting more in threes. So 3 beats 2.
Yep. every time. All right, let's go to our half-hour score date. Our half-hour scoreboard. Nate, why don't you pop in here? Give us a couple scores that's been going on tonight.
So I'll start with the NBA first. The Nets are up 74-48, and it's 9:56 left in the third.
Jesus.
Yeah, yeah. And then I'll move over to hockey. The New York Islanders are up over the Bruins 5-4, and it's 4:01 left in the third.
Wow, that game was 5-2 a minute ago. Wow.
Yeah. And it's end of the first for Montreal versus Winnipeg. If Montreal wins, then that means that Winnipeg is out, and Montreal is currently up 2-0 in the first.
All right. Cool, very cool. You got a sports corner at 11, right?
Yeah, Ray and I both do. And
what do you have coming up on Sports Corner tonight?
This actually NBA recapping the games for the NBA, recapping the games for the NHL, a little bit of live reaction as well. Also doing recaps for MLB because there's only 3 games in Major League Baseball today, so we're going to do some recaps of that too.
Awesome. All right, so everyone stick around, tune in to Nate and Ray at Sports Corner at 11 o'clock. Thanks, Nate. Appreciate that. Story that went down a little while ago, Tom Thibodeau was named Coach of the Year of the Knicks. Knicks coach Tom, Tom is the second time he has won Coach of the Year. He edged out Monty Williams by 11 points, and Quinn Snyder finished third. I feel he's deserving of that. I know there was a lot of Monty Williams fans out there. Monty Williams, I know, won Coach of the Year. There's another award that he won Coach of the Year for, so they both were recognized as Coach of the Year. So, Jonathan, is Thibodeau or Monty Williams your Coach of the Year?
Well, Monty Williams was my Coach of the Year, but either way it would have gone. Both of these guys deserved it because they both did a fantastic job, right? Mm-hmm. They both did fantastic jobs. They came in. They turned around these franchises. They, established a winning culture. And so, it could have went either way. But Tom Thibodeau wins it for a few reasons, right? The Knicks are a big market team. The Knicks are a more valued franchise. More fans globally knows the team really well. And also, Tom Thibodeau is a great defensive-minded coach as well. So those all played a significant role in why he won Coach of the Year. I was about to say Defensive Player of the Year, but Coach of the Year. And Monty Williams, man, he's done an amazing job in Phoenix. Got the team to the playoffs, but you can also say that a lot of that has to do with Chris Paul being the veteran point guard that he is.
He had an assistant coach on the floor, essentially.
Right. He had an assistant coach on the floor, and that's something that Tom Thibodeau didn't have in guys like Julius Randle and Derrick Rose, Derrick Rose been around a long enough.
Right.
But Julius Randle, he's still emerging into a superstar and, has staked his claim this year with the way he has played as well. So I do give a lot of praise to Tom Thibodeau. Well deserved, and congratulations.
All right, there you go. All right. So, Ray, do you think Thibodeau deserved it, or do you think it should have been Monty Williams? Should have been a tie? What do you think?
Well, to me, I think both coaches are deserving. Both coaches did what they needed to do to get their teams in the playoffs. One advanced more than the other. But, if you take it down what Jonathan said here, I'm going to break it a little bit down a little bit more. If you look at Monty Williams, he had Devin Booker, he had Chris Paul. That right there was a double-headed monster. I think he had one of the best backcourts in the NBA. Because with the coach on the court, he draws in, he kicks it out. Booker can hit down. And the reason why I think Thibodeau got a little bit more is he don't have those type of players on his team. He had a Derrick Rose, and he knew how to use Derrick Rose. He rested there. He didn't start him most games. They brought him off the bench, but he brought him off the bench at key situations. And Derrick Rose gelled in it because he knew what Thibodeau was all about from his Chicago days. So Julius Randle, he just started to come in his own too. But I mean, he didn't have the best backcourt back there. He had Peyton starting. I don't know why he had him starting. I mean, he only knew how to drive. He can't hit no jump shots. But he only played 8 minutes, and then Derrick Rose took the most of the starting minutes. So if you look at it, he only had one true all-star, which back in the day, Derrick Rose was an all-star type player. Mm-hmm. And Booker and all them on the other side. So I think he gave him a little bit of edge. I don't think it was much of because it was a big market team. Everybody knew the Knicks. I think it's just ability where he had less talent on the books than the Phoenix Suns had.
No, true, very true, very true. But both coaches were recognized. I think, as I said, I think Monty Williams won. There was another award that he won, but I'm glad both coaches were recognized. And definitely, it's been a good. I think it's been a good NBA season because, as we said in the beginning, there's a little changing of the guard, some fresh blood. We've definitely seen some new teams and new players, new stars coming out. More people are talking about John Morant now, who I said last week is just an absolute superstar. I love watching him play. Trae Young is now cementing himself as a face of the league, so it's definitely been a good playoff thing. I want to finish up, you guys. I know both you guys do some great things online. I know you guys both have great shows. So, Jonathan, talk about where people can find you. And I know you have a podcast, the sports thing that you do. And I know you're on Just Say the Truth on Wednesdays and Friday. You're on Friday night too, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so
as well.
You're on Wednesday and Friday. So just talk about, your whole sports judge thing. Just tell everybody about that.
Yes. Well, they call me the sports judge because a long time ago I was given that nickname because I could be very judgmental of sports athletes and coaches and everything. Mm-hmm. And it also goes with the name Judge Mathis, which my last name is Mathis, as you guys can see. And there's a famous judge on TV by the name of Judge Mathis. So that's how the sports judge came about. And I decided to change it up for some originality. Instead of calling myself Judge Mathis, I call myself the sports judge. And you guys can find me right here on this network, Wednesdays and Friday nights with Ray, Freddie, and the rest of the gang as we talk sports on our show, Just Say the Truth, every Friday and Wednesday at 6 p.m. Pacific time, 9 p.m. Eastern time. And you can also find me on YouTube. I have my own YouTube channel. You can't miss me. I'm a cartoon character on my profile picture. So it's Jonathan Mathis, sports judge there as well on YouTube. And you guys can also check out my fan page. I have two fan pages. I have one that's called Jonathan Sports Judge Mathis. You guys can follow me there on Facebook. And you guys can also follow my other fan page, SoCal Chronicle. That's another fan page for my website. You guys can check out commentary there. I also put up our shows there. You guys can check out that cool stuff. I put up memes from time to time. So make sure you guys check all that stuff out as well. And SoCalChronicle.com. You can't miss me there either. I post commentary. I post a lot of sports columns. Mostly it focuses on things here in the LA sports market. So you guys are more than welcome to leave comments, read the articles, check out some work, and get back at me.
Cool. And you're on Instagram too, right? What's your Instagram page?
Oh yeah, Sports Judge 85. Everything is Sports Judge.
Sports Judge 85. All right. So now we know how old you are. So there you go.
Yes. I was born in 1985.
Exactly. Cool. Now Ray has a radio show that he does besides being one of our analysts here on the network. So Ray, tell everybody about your radio show.
My radio show is the Ray Sports Show. It's on the 502 Fallen Angel radio station. It's an internet based. You can go look it up. I'll post links on my Facebook page, Ray Sports Show. There's links there for that. I'm also on the, bring it on the ASAP Sports Network, Sports Corner. I'm also on Thursday nights Full Count and Tuesday nights ASAP Wrestling Hour. You can find me here on the net. This is all on the ASAP Network. I'm also bringing the Ray Sports Show live stream. I have a YouTube channel at the Ray Sports Show. I have Instagram at the Ray Sports Show. I have a Twitter at the Ray Sports Show. So you can find me all there. I'm starting to get stuff built up on my Facebook page. I just started getting everything, so I haven't gone live. I'm supposed to trying to get it live here either on the 9th or the 10th of July. Is probably gonna be my first show. Cool. Started off, and then we also got some new shows coming here to the ASAP Network. I'm working with Eric to come up with the college sports football show to start counting down college football season. I'm also got some work in to try to be a field reporter, bring some stories back from the Jacksonville Jaguar game day, pre-game show from the stadium and post-game show from the stadium. So I'm gonna try to do that. We're trying to work on how to get a pregame show where we can bring in field reporters from different, when you go to the sports events and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I'm also working with trying to get on with First Coast High School here, trying to build up, see if we can figure out some internet and stuff like that. If we can do that, and I'm gonna talk to Freddie, see if I can bring First Coast High School football live on the ASAP Sports Network. So I'm working on trying to get some cameras. I got some unmanned cameras that I could place on the field that actually follows the football, the actions from the end zone and from the sidelines, and put one up in the press box with me so we can get the sideline, the midfield staying. So I've got some stuff in works trying to get so we can get some action live football on the ASAP Sports Network,
Cool.
Trying to beef up some of this network up, and if we can get some people to do college football, high school football and stuff like that on here, try to build up the network a little bit, on Friday nights instead of having like all the debate shows and stuff like that. Give it different aspects of the show. So I got some ideas and some work. So if we can get some people, around the horizon, pitch in and see if we can get some high school football, teams to volunteer their, time and stuff to get it in there, and we can do some stuff like that. My background in sports, you can ask my sister. I grew up watching sports. Since I was 6 years old, I carried a notebook around in high school that had everybody's stat from foul shooting all the way to percentage shooting to who was on the team. I was a big stats guy. I was a big follower of basketball and baseball and football. That's just my nature of sports. And I'm 49. I'm be 49 years old next Sunday. So, I've been around playing sports and participating. I was better in sports than I was in high school and education wise. So, this gives me an outlet to be a sportscaster. But I want to, touch on one little base here about something that is, talking about everything. But I have I got a couple of friends here at church, is fighting for cancer. They're in stage 3 cancer right now, hoping to try to get it. But, I know it's a sports show, but, I like to talk about some personal stuff too. Just get some mind out and stuff. But if you got anybody out there that have family members or friends who are suffering from cancer, that's a dangerous disease. But they also got the same supplement as Jim Valvano is Never Give Up. And then Stuart Scott, who passed away, that I actually knew pretty good from the days when he was at University of North Carolina. He played, and he was also a sportscaster and a regular newscaster at WTVD Channel 11 in North Carolina before he became a big star in ESPN. He's always says that you never give up. And if you're playing sports and stuff, the same mentality is if you got kids, Don't let them give up their sports attitude. Don't try to criticize people that they can't be professional athletes. They're trying their best. And, every day I see, people in, walks of life. I've seen people in wheelchairs playing basketball. They're getting out there playing athletics. So, but I have seen some people put people down in wheelchairs playing basketball.
Mhm.
And I know a guy that's back home in North Carolina who played basketball in a wheelchair, but he played against people out on the playgrounds. He played against people that actually can walk and stuff and block his shots and stuff. But, he didn't take it for pity to what he did and why he lost his legs. And then the biggest thing is my friend, Rodney Rogers. You got to keep it out for him. He lost all his, legs and stuff. He's paralyzed from the neck down on a four-wheeler accident. But, he gave up his big basketball career, in the Denver Nuggets and the Boston Celtics, and he played good. And he worked at Duke Energy here in Durham, North Carolina. But now he can't provide for his wife. But he didn't give up either. He started a foundation for all paraplegics, and he's doing good in what he's doing now. And he can't talk. He has to talk to a computer. So you just don't take your life for granted, and then never give up. And if you want to pursue stuff in your dreams and sports, don't give it up. I started too late, in my trying to get into my sports career. This is just a good thing for me to be on this show and stuff. And this is a good outlet. So, to be in a sportscaster. So
it's never too
cool.
It's tough. It's tough, man, because I lost my dad in 1997. I was 11 years old and I lost him to lung cancer. So I know how that is.
Yeah. I lost my dad when I was 18. He was a diabetic, and then I just lost my mom back in February of this year. And she was also a diabetic. So I have diabetics on both sides of my family. So that's why I took advantage of myself. I was at 365 pounds. I'm down to 257 pounds now.
Wow. Good for you, man. Good for you. Good for you. Well, yeah, and it's true. And, people if there are things you want to do, definitely go out and do it. There's a lot of outlets, with the internet now, and the power of voice is amazing. What you can do with your voice and just talking to you can get a simple microphone like this. This is like a $35 microphone. You can just set it up and just, put your message out there, whether, and everyone's got a positive thing to say. And that's a very, very cool thing. Well, thank you guys for sharing. I'll just give myself a little plug here. I host this show every Monday. This is a dream come true for me. I've been a sports talk fan since I was younger, and it's just so great being able to host a show and chop it up with all these guys at the network, and we're doing great things here. I also host a music podcast. I'm a professional musician called the Music Lounge Podcast. You can get to see that anywhere, and you can follow me on Instagram, so that's kind of a cool thing. And, we got lots of great stuff going on here. I just want to bring Nate in one more time. Nate, why don't you tell everybody quickly about your website? I know you just started a new website up for your sports journalism stuff. So tell everybody about that real quick.
Yeah, so I have a new website. I'll bring it up in the comments actually. Mm-hmm. It's called natesportsblog.godaddysites.com. Excuse me. So I'll repeat that again. natesportsblog.godaddysites.com. So basically everything that I do here on the ASAP network, any sports show that I do. So the one that I do on the Minds of Creativity side, that's not going to be in the website, but with great power and then I also been writing a couple of articles. I'm currently working on a second one. The first one is published. Go ahead and check that out. Also, I'm currently working on a second one. That's not, however, published yet, though.
All right, so check out Nate's site for all that good stuff. And yeah, just keep watching the network. We got Real Talk coming up at 9:30. Then we got Nate and Ray with Sports Corner at 11. Got a lot of great stuff this week. One of the new shows on the network is the Rick T podcast with Eric Holmes Jr. and the rest of his crew. That's a great show. Check that out. Just stay tuned. Just log it into Facebook or Twitter or YouTube or even our Twitch channel and just tune into the shows. Lots of great stuff, lots of great takes, and all sorts of good stuff. So for all of us here, bring it. Thank you guys for watching. Really appreciate it. And stay tuned, and we'll see you guys next week. All right, we're out.
See ya.